So how many genders are there?
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
What's up, taxpayers? I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen.
And welcome to Average American. Today we're going to be talking about genders and how many there are. How many genders are there?
Two.
So that's a very sensitive topic for, well, I'd say just America, but it's kind of, and
It's become universal.
the United Kingdom, Australia, so us woke countries.
Yep. However, you go to places like Saudi Arabia or anywhere in the Middle East and you will be beheaded for that kind of talk. We're not even there. Like, we don't want to behead you. We just want you to realize that if you're born a dude, you're a dude. If you're born a female, guess what? You're a female. Regardless of how you may identify.
So we're sorry to disappoint you. We don't have our high-tech recording equipment.
Nope, we're chilling.
We're outside enjoying the cool weather that Florida gets very rarely. So if you're watching this, grab you a beer and sit down and listen to us talk.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about genders, let's just go ahead and kind of get the definition. Of gender dysphoria. We'll start with that. I'm going to bring out my paper after I let this car pass. Alright, so gender dysphoria, it's a diagnosis listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and it is published by the American Psychiatric Association.
Nut in your brain.
So gender, the word gender and the word sex, since about the 15th century, were interchangeable. That's the word, interchangeable.
Okay.
They were used in pretty much the same context for the last 500 years until around 1970, and that was in academia, non-science academics, that it was started to be used more as a adjective for how it is today. So throughout history, sex and gender were biological terms, male, female. Just throwing that out there, a little bit of history on it. And then around 2010 with the big push, it became more mainstream, not just in non-scientific academia. It was more into the mainstream, really pushing more of a political rhetoric than anything. Okay. Alright, so I've heard arguments when it comes to gender and sex that they're both used quite a bit interchangeably in today's standards, and that's just not true. There is a great variety of the word gender used in social constructs, how you do your hair, makeup, what you dress like when it comes to gender. When it comes to sex, that's what it is. Like, not intercourse, it's just sex. Biology, science, male, female. That's it. Those are your two options.
X and Y chromosomes.
And I know as late as 1990, and I have an older dictionary than that, the Webster's Dictionary of the word gender, definition 1, sex. They're the same thing. It is sex. That is what you were born with. It's got to do with your genitalia. Penis, vagina. And the very few and rare things that have both. Kudos. So the disorders of sex development, or DSDs, the DSDs are very rare, but they constitute and they're known. So you don't have to create a new sex for it or gender. They're already a known, very rare medical condition. So we need no other name. For example, let me bring out my notebook. You have the XXYY occurs in 18,000 to 40,000 male births. The XXY occurs in 85,000 to 100,000 male births. So if you compare that to quote-unquote normal births of sex characteristics between male and females, that's 1 in every 2. So these anomalies are already known, and they're known for medical disorders, so there's no need to classify them as anything else. They're nothing new. They're known about. still leaving two genders, male, female, by the definition of the term. I want to go back to that. Oh, bless you. The word gender still means sex. Just because society is trying to change it doesn't mean anything, and we'll get into that later. So just to clarify, we have no problem with people with mental disorders unless you're a pedophile.
Because there's no cure that has been known to man other than lobotomies, and guess what? Then some bitches ain't coming back. Or
Oh, 45.
I mean,
For these guns. Like the definition has changed to a non-biological to more of a behavioral, cultural, and psychological issue. And we're going to get in on that. So as far as the actual definition, there are two genders. Oh, no, there's not. There's I ain't trying to hear all that.
you're wrong.
You're wrong. But trying to agree to disagree, we'll get into the more accepted use of the term now. As a society, and even worldwide to a specific degree, we have gotten away from our natural characteristics as it comes to sex and gender. And this is mainly, I think, it pushes political ideals or ideologies, or caters to a certain group. Except for the rare cases, like we said, that already have their own diagnosis. Biological sex comes with what are now considered bigoted terms: masculine, feminine, male, female. Nowadays you can't say that because, you know, there are dudes that aren't very masculine that walk around tucking their wieners and they identify as whatever. But biologically, for the most part, even them guys, if they would just quit tucking their wieners, they probably could be more masculine. They just choose not to be. But it has nothing to do with their DNA. It has
Can't
to do
change
with
DNA.
yeah, it has to do with their choices and how they choose to act. It's a social and cultural thing. So for most of human history, there are a few cases where, you know, back in some of the BC times with men that wanted to be women. Or, I mean, there's always rare cases, but those are abnormal. They're rare. Like with anything, you don't make a law out of an exception. That's why they're called exceptions. You know, when you have 99.9% of everything going this way, you know, you don't change the course of human history because of that, 0.1%. The attack on biological traits it's got to be politically fueled. And like I said, since the 70s, when America become so woke after the 60s of sleeping with each other and these, drug-induced week-long orgies, we found all of our morality during that time, and now we're woke to being pansexual, demisexual.
What is a pansexual?
I have no idea. I didn't look up the definitions of all that because I don't care. I think you just want attention. Like I think I've said in one of our first videos, you may have been abused, and I'm sorry. But where do you draw the line when it comes to how you feel and what you want to be? But we'll get into that later.
I mean, why do we have to be such a culture that absorbs what everybody else wants us to absorb? Like, why can't we just all have our own thoughts rather than trying to push your thoughts on me if I don't agree with you?
All medical paperwork up until probably now, because doctors and some things are catering to people that say gender isn't about biology, when
Which is
the
insane.
science and medical research is there. Except for the known anomalies, there's no new research out there that shows anything different. And I've seen a few things, and even Steven Crowder was debating with the person that mentioned a few, but they're known and they're abnormal. It's not the norm. Still says gender. What gender are you? Then that's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about biological characteristics, and it's not 100%, because there are some more wimpy type men that are more feminine. Now they might be all man, not pansexual, not demisexual, not non-binary, all man.
But they have more feminine attributes.
But for the most part, most men are stronger than most women. Our bodies physically look different, from our jaw lines to our bone structure. We obviously have different genitalia. Chromosomes are different. Like, we are different in every way, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being different.
Nope.
The whole feminist movement is about being different and then being equal, but now at the same time, within the same movement, within the same group of people, we are, yeah, it's more shrapnel. You know, now I'm a woman, or can be if I say I want to be, and that's not doing anything for the feminist cause at all. I don't think.
I absolutely agree, and I'm probably the worst woman to try and discuss this because I don't think men and women are equal. As a woman, I can say I'm not stronger than a man. I don't know of many people who are. And I hate to go here, but I would, regardless of what happens, I would never even vote for a woman president regardless of what she may bring to the table, just because there are other countries who also don't feel that women are equal. Now, I will say that is kind of BS.
She means biologically equal.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Yes, I do.
Not equal rights.
Yeah.
Pump your brakes, liberals.
That is what I
That
mean.
probably aren't watching this.
No, they probably aren't. But men and women are just, they're not the freaking same. They're not. We're, in any way, shape, or form. And I'm sorry, but I don't like a sissy man, and most women don't. We want masculine men, and this crap that y'all are pushing as far as clothes and things like that. And oh my God, the new wardrobe for men, I'm sorry, but I don't want my man wearing culottes. I don't want my man wearing things that would look good on me.
She don't want a man that squats when he pees.
I don't, and most women don't. I mean, that goes back to the point where the small percentage of people are ruling what everyone else has to say.
So, you know, and I think in a lot of ways, and in probably every way, women are smarter than men. Their brains function, they multitask better, and most are more nurturing than men. You got your, women that drown their babies and stuff like, you got your exceptions, but, overall, I can't give birth. My hips won't separate. We're just built different. We serve a different purpose.
Yep.
Whether you're religious and you have beliefs that go along that line, or if you believe in evolution, which is a religion, but we'll talk about that later. Whatever
That's
you
where we
believe, whatever you believe, there's reasons why we're different and built different. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of like with cultures. You have, what you call white boy culture and how white people act and how black people act. But there's nothing wrong with that. We're a different culture. Yes, we're humans. We're all the same, but we have our own background in history from the different countries. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. How, white people like to, wear their fanny packs and walk around, with their big wristwatch, and how black people can't be quiet in movies. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of the culture. We're different. That's what makes America great, is because we are different. So with all that being said, scientifically, there are still two genders. I don't care. You can find research on it now from these oscillating circular reasoning people that push, I'm going to call it more liberal studies that just publish each other's stuff. But, it still all boils down to a lot of mental disorders, or how people deal with the anxiety they get from how they feel, how they should feel. There's a lot that goes into it, and I do sympathize with people like that. Most of it's not because of an imbalance of hormones. Some of it is because of what we eat and the medicines and stuff that are injected in birth and what you get subjected to as a kid. Some of that plays a small percentage, but most of it is you want attention and want to jump on a bandwagon. You're a dude and that you don't have a vagina that can bleed, or that you're a woman that cuts your hair like a bull dyke, and you say that you're a man and then now you have a man period. Like, you're still a woman. Like, you're a mentally ill woman. And nobody owes you anything but maybe some mental health. Nobody should discriminate against you. But you're not brave for cutting your hair and calling yourself a man. It doesn't make you brave.
No, it doesn't. Caitlyn Jenner.
Being willing to stand up for what you believe in, hey, go for it.
I mean, I met a few lady boys in Thailand who you would have never known that they were.
That's why I won't go.
Well, we pulled in the port, but
Ugh.
you would have never known that they were men. Hey, more power to you, but it doesn't change the fact that if you die, when that coroner does your report, the gender is going to say male or female, regardless if you were a male that identified as a female or vice versa.
Y'all hear them coyotes out there in the woods?
You got a pack of
It
them.
feels like they're close. They're really long. There's a creek down there or a swamp. So where does the line draw? All the funniness being aside, I do understand the people that want to identify as whatever. Even though most of it's a crock of crap, I do believe there are some that with the different chromosomal issues and birth defects and stuff, or maybe even hormones from medicines or drugged up mommies or daddies, whatever the case may be, such a small percentage, I don't think we should be pushing it on all of society. But all those aside, where do you draw the line? To be politically correct, I've had this conversation about homosexuality. If you have to say love wins and accept who you are, then at what point, I've said this, I identify as a goblin, and if I go into your residence, you don't have the needs I need as a goblin in your bathroom facilities, can I sue you? Can I be front page news? Or I think I've heard people say, or a bobcat. What if I want to be a lamp, or a roll of carpet, or a 2x4?
I am lamp.
Where does it stop? And how ridiculous can it be? And then you've heard the extreme, I identify as a 9-year-old. And this is where we get into the pedophilia talk.
Oh, Lord.
And, to be non-hypocritical and to be accepting, as long as I'm not physically, very hypothetical, okay, absolutely hypothetical. If somebody's not physically hurting a child and they're found with child porn and they want to identify as a 9-year-old, how is that going to be wrong if love wins and that's who he is, that's how he feels? We call that a mental disorder now. 20, 30 years ago, homosexuality was a mental disorder. So at what point do you see, this is what the word conservative means. It's we see where it's going to go and we try to stop it here. Not because we're bigoted or hateful, but you see down the line into the future of where things can go, and it's going there really quick.
Really fast. Stop with the whole pushing your bullshit on everybody. It doesn't ever end. Like he just said, if you keep on pushing this and you keep on going this way, it's gonna happen. Like, tooth and nail, it's going to happen. Okay, well, I identify as a 9-year-old. I'm a 35-year-old man, but change subject because I'm getting irritated.
I seen a tweet today about one of the airlines that are catering to the different, our new non-binary seating or whatever the case may have been. And it could have been a fake meme, but the point's still true. Somebody had replied, well, I identify as a bag of luggage, so now I get to fly anywhere I want for $30.
Hell yeah!
At what point can you not argue that?
Right.
By your own definitions. So this is where we're going with that. Like, live how you want to live. You want to tuck your wiener, if you want to chop it off, if you want to shave your head, I don't care what you want to do. If you want to squat on a fire hydrant and,
That sounds painful.
while eating pizza and rubbing lard all over your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, I don't care what you do. And this goes back to what she talked about in one of our first videos that we got bashed for. Live how you want. But sexuality is being influenced on our kids at such a young age.
Oh, man. I just got blocked off of Facebook for 30 days because I had a post against promoting sexuality for children. Yeah, that's
pictures
where it's gone.
of, 11 and under is what it looked like, wearing bathing, very provocative.
Yes.
And that is sick. And I think most of y'all would agree. But any liberals that are watching this, you kind of have to disagree with it because you have to promote that in order to push
what your agenda is.
What somebody's agenda. Maybe not yours personally, but that's where it's going. And I'll hit one more little pet peeve of mine, and it's the attack on the patriarchy. Well, that's what it's called. Men leading the house, Men being men, you know, that toxic masculinity.
Which most women like.
And it's not, you know, maybe for religious reasons some people do it. That's how I was raised. You know, you want to take care of women, respect them, take care of your family. There's nothing wrong with women working. I'm not old school, and it's not toxic to be a man. It's not toxic to not act like a man. My religious beliefs, the Bible says not to be effeminate, which, and it goes on, you dress like a man. You're supposed to, there's a certain way you're supposed to dress, and you're supposed to act like a man. I'm not supposed to tuck my wiener and prance around. Third world countries, these little tribes you see in the middle of Africa or anywhere, you don't see them tucking their wiener, prancing around, wearing little straw dresses, confused about their sexuality. You never see the camera with two dudes butt humping each other, because it's just not a thing. It's a problem with our demented society for many different reasons. That's a whole multifaceted issue of what, you know, what from parenting to the school. I mean, there's so many things that's wrong with how people act nowadays. To drugs, to a lot of it's food. But you don't see that, and I've made that point. Why don't you see that in these off-the-grid cultures of this confusion? Like I said, maybe the birth defects aren't there, the hormone imbalances aren't there. But even here in America, like you heard just a few statistics, it's so rare you can't really count it. So this is a sensitive topic. So I think we're in agreement. There's two genders. You know, they might change the definition. I'm pretty sure it will be. I think there's a lot of different ways to identify. You talk about gender gap and gender masculinity or whatever, feminism and all that. It's all a type of adjective. You know, if you want to go that route, that's fine. And you say, you know, gender has nothing to do with biology, but it really does. It really does.
Yep.
Because most of the world still doesn't see it that way, and most of the world probably don't care how you live or what you want to do until you start forcing it and calling us racist or bigots or homophobes.
Well, y'all, I'm glad that you've joined in and continue watching, because it's only going to get more interesting.
More spicy.
Yes. Buckle up, y'all. It's going to be a hell of a ride.